Hey everyone, I figured I'd make a video. It's a little easier than typing things out. Just wanted to give you a little feedback on the exam, the practice exam. Okay, so first of all, the sort of like how to take the exam, practice exam that they have on the AEE website is really great as a preparation in terms of how to navigate through. It's exactly the same way, so it's pretty self-explanatory, but so make sure you do that because it's good to get used to the format. I found it pretty user-friendly. I had no problems with it. The organization, sort of jumping around is really easy. So flagging questions are really easy to go back to later. So I thought it was great. Okay, so in terms of the content, the calculations that we did in class, cover almost pretty much all of the calculations that at least I encountered on this practice exam. So make sure you know how to do all of them. I would practice them again. Your heat flow through air, with the CFM formula, heat flow through water with the GPM formula, heat flow through a surface, with your UA delta T, annual heat flow through a surface with HDD or CDD. There were, if you remember, we had a couple of compressed air calculations with like PSE drop, PSIG drop, and cubic footage and that sort of thing. The exam I took, they were on there. So all of the ones that we encountered were on there for me. So I would definitely look at how to do those. You definitely want to have a nice psychrometric chart printed out. You don't need a giant one. It's fine. As long as you can see all the numbers. I just had a little, 8.5 by 11 printout, which was fine. I think I had like 3 or 4 psychrometric questions, so it was enough to have one chart. But if you want to have multiple, that's fine. Just make sure you can see it and practice reading it. Psychrometric questions as sort of like a wider test-taking strategy. You get about 2 minutes per question, okay? And so I'll be honest, I ran out of time. I had to kind of go through and click like maybe 3 or 4 questions, just because some of the questions require sort of a deeper knowledge or things that you have to look up. So when you get an opportunity to save time on a question, that's really, really important. So if there's a simple question like, you have an 80-degree dry bulb and 50% relative humidity, what is the enthalpy, or what is the dew point, what is the wet bulb, right? Like that's a question. I think I got one of those and it was just like, oh, this is awesome, because that took me like 5 seconds and then I got that done and saved some time for other questions. So you want to, my suggestion for what it's worth is to do the questions that save as much time as you can. If you don't know it, flag it. If you think it's going to take you a really long time, it's up to you. I flagged them when it's something that I knew I'd have to look up or dig through my notes or whatever. So it's up to you, but I suggest doing that, and then you have time at the end to go back to the ones that you flagged. So, all those calculations that we did, the efficiency, right, EER and kilowatts and tons of cooling. There's a little of electricity with power factor, that sort of thing, like the power factor triangle. So you have to learn how to do that. There was more than a couple motor questions, so make sure you know those, the motor load and the different efficiency, how to calculate the input of a motor with the efficiency and the loading, slip, like that sort of stuff, synchronous speed, all that. So make sure you know those. You may encounter one that asks you to calculate a loan payment. So make sure you have that formula, because remember, you can't use Excel. You can't use the PMT function. So I would have that in your notes. I feel like I sort of failed you in that one because, it wasn't one of our practice problems, but make sure you know how to do that. That may pop up. And the loan formula is really easy. We've used it in other classes, but you can look it up. There are questions on like commissioning. There's some commissioning questions that kind of stuff that we talked about, but not real in depth. So you might want to review any kind of commissioning. There was some steam and cogeneration questions, so you want to make sure you know how to, look at those. I didn't encounter anything with boiler, stack temperature, and efficiency and stuff, but that is certainly fair game. There was a little bit of lighting, lumen method, basic lighting calculations. But they also, they throw some curveballs at you with some of the multiple choice questions, so just read everything really, really carefully. Sometimes it's like, which of the following are not, whatever things you do in commissioning instead. So just be careful. I found that the answers didn't really trip me up in terms of, if I did a calculation and I forgot to include efficiency, like the answer that I got, wrong answer that I got wasn't there. It was like, what did I do? I'm like, oh, I forgot efficiency, so I went back and did that. So for what it's worth, at least in my version, they didn't try to trip you up too much in terms of these little red herring questions. But so in terms of what materials you want to have, definitely all of your formulas. Very, very important. Ready access to your formulas. However you have it organized, I would put some tabs in again, I would put these in a binder if I were you, just to give you practice for the full CEM. So all your formulas, all of your conversion factors. So everything, including everything we talked about. Obviously energy calculations, but also how many pounds per gallon, how many kilowatts per ton, that sort of stuff. That should all be in your notes. Let's see. You should have your Doty and Turner book ready, because I did look some answers up in there, and it was actually helpful to look in the index and then find it, and I actually got a couple of answers that way. So I would definitely have that. Plus that has your finance tables in them, right? So you're going to need those for sure. There are a couple of questions on net present value and that find P given A kind of question. So make sure you know how to do those. And again, those are ones you should be able to save some time on, because you're just boom, find P given A, and you can look it up pretty quickly at a certain discount rate and so forth. So what else to have? The ventilation equation that we did early on in the semester. So the ASHRAE 62 2, those ventilation rate tables. That's important. I didn't encounter a whole lot of code, but I would definitely have know which code is which and a little bit about code. Let's see, what other materials? I mean, you can have your notes, if you have notes from class or from other classes, if you can put it in a binder, you can use it. So some of that may come in handy from our class, some of Mr. Horst classes in particular. If you have notes, lighting class, there might be some helpful stuff in there. Because I did counter a little bit about lumen depreciation and sort of different qualities of different lamp types. Remember that sort of tricky one where it's you have a water heater that's electric and is 95% efficient, paying 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and you want to convert to natural gas, it's 80% efficient, that's, whatever, $20 per MMBTU, and how much would you save each year? So remember that one where you sort of do the one efficiency and then reverse it with another energy type. So that's an important one. There are some gas turbine questions. There were some that I just didn't know, to be honest. We didn't really go over too much. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but definitely motor stuff. So horsepower and slip and all. I think I did mention that. Sorry, it's been a long couple of days. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. Some of the different energy auditing equipment. What's an ammeter, voltmeter, wattmeter, that sort of thing. There were some steam evaluation questions. What's a steam trap and how do you evaluate a steam trap, that sort of thing. Some of the basic energy, demand management, so load shifting and all that, demand side management. Yeah, there's some questions that dig pretty deeply into the sort of the electronics of motors and that sort of thing. So, do your best on those. Maybe look it up in your book, but I would flag some of those. Yeah, I think that's about the main thing. So really, what we went over really should prepare you really well for this exam. If you can, you could print out some of those binder supplements. They came in handy as long as they're organized, right? You can jump to some so they you can definitely address some of these questions. Yeah, I guess that's probably about all. So sorry, I'm just kind of looking at my notes and trying to figure out what to tell you, but yeah, so make sure you can do all the calculations. That's our bread and butter. And you should be able to save time on a lot of the calculation questions. Otherwise, just have your notes handy, your formulas handy, definitely the book handy, because I did look, like I said, I looked a few things up. Yeah, I think if you just make sure you're ready, and you can do the things that our calculations pretty quickly, you'll be in good shape. And just remember, to print it out and submit it after you're done. Okay? If you have any other questions, reach out to me. But I think that's should help you prepare you for the exam. Okay? All right. Well, again, you guys did an awesome job today. Really, really good. I mean, really, everything turned out really well, and you really worked hard, and you earned it this semester. So, really great job. And yeah, I guess if you have any questions, let me know. And as I said, let me know if you plan on taking the full CEM, and we can sort of set up some time to do some extra review. And I have some extra resources that I could possibly provide. Okay? All right, that's about it. So hopefully I'll see you all not too far down the road. But good luck on your exam.